Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Kara McKinney. Nikki Haley is still smarting from losing the Nevada primary 31 to 63% to the option none of these candidates. So she's now accusing President Trump of rigging the primary, which is hilarious to me. She claims Trump was in cahoots with the state's GOP chairman in order to create a separate caucus. But the state has always had caucuses. It wasn't until after the election year of 2020 that the state legislature decided to switch to a primary system instead. The idea being that it's easier for voters to cast ballots in a primary than it is for them to show up in person at a specific date and time to caucus. But state Republicans never really liked the idea of switching to the primary system. So they left that program in place to be run by the state, but they continue to finance out of their own party pocketbook a caucus, which is where the 26 delegates will be assigned from to the winner. The candidates knew this and knew that they could only sign up for one of these systems, while voters could participate in both. So what exactly was rigged, Nikki? You knew this all along. It seems more like Haley knew Trump would destroy her in the caucus because he's great at drawing out voters in person, so she decided to only sign up for the primary, not realizing that he would beat her there too, at least in my mind, under the category none of these candidates. Hence why she is even more sour than normal. I think she thought that she would at least win the primary without President Trump appearing on that ballot with her, but obviously that didn't end up happening. Now, I came across this hilarious post on X I want to share with you all. This user jokes, quote, Nikki Haley went to the Oracle of Delphi and asked, if I run for president, who can defeat me? And the Oracle responded, if you run for president, none of these candidates will defeat you. Heartened, Haley announced her campaign the next day, end quote. Joining us now to discuss is independent journalist Jackson Gosnell. Jackson, thanks for being here tonight.
Yeah, it's good to be with you. Thanks.
Great. So what do you make of Nikki Haley's new excuse as to why she lost in Nevada without President Trump even being on the ballot with her?
Well, it's really interesting. You know, she's claiming that this is rigged, but I've heard reporting that it was her team not wanting to spend around $55,000 to take part in this. And again, she alleges that it's rigged for Trump due to the Republican Party chair there and so forth. And so all of this has just been kind of really interesting because she lost to the none of these candidates option, which is a major slap in the face for Haley. It's important to note that voters can participate in both the primary and the caucus. So perhaps this was a lot of Trump supporters maybe voting in the primary to send a clear signal that they don't want her to be the Republican nominee. And she still claims that she's going to stay in this race through South Carolina. I'm in South Carolina. She's had a number of events here in recent days. President Trump is expected to come this weekend for one event. But does he really need to do a bunch of events here? Probably not, because he has such a wide lead in all the polls here in South Carolina. But nonetheless, Nikki Haley has vowed to stay in the race through Super Tuesday, saying she needs to do better. But with the Nevada upset, which her team is really just pushing to the side as not an upset, even though perhaps it is, there's growing questions on whether or not she's going to stay in, and if so, for how long.
That is the question, like you're saying, and I know, as you were also mentioning earlier, she's trying to wash her hands in Nevada. Oh, I didn't really want to try anyways. I didn't even really want to put money into it. But you know, it's just because even losing the primary without Trump on that ballot, he appears on the caucus ballot, but not on the primary one. You know that stung, and that stung really, really bad for her. And like you said, now it's the backpedaling of, well, my main focus, it's on South Carolina, it's Super Tuesday, it's all these events coming up ahead, but does she really have a path forward at this point? She's lost resoundingly all the past primaries and caucuses that we've seen so far. So what do you think may be going through her mind and her team's mind on this? Because like I said, it doesn't seem like she has any path forward.
You know, I was at a campaign stop here in South Carolina last week, and from what I gathered, both she and her staff truly believe that there is a path forward. Now, how they're going to get to that path remains a mystery, because it is certainly slimming as Donald Trump continues to remain the front runner in the Republican Party. But there's been growing speculation that maybe she's just staying in this race because of Trump's legal cases. And oh, what happens if Donald Trump ends up having to be in court every day and somehow is prohibited from continuing to run?